As a filmmaker myself who fully understands the level of dedication and hard work that goes into making an epic project, I give him so much respect for this film. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Critics. As always, I am your host, Isaac Joel. And today we're going to be talking about Monkey Man, the latest film by Universal Pictures and Dev Patel. This is his first directorial debut. This is the first film he's ever written, directed, produced, and fully fleshed out, and it shows. It is his baby. It is his brainchild. It is a passion project that he's been working on for a very, very long time. Almost didn't get made. It was almost impossible for it to even be produced. A lot of the investors backed down towards like the first couple of weeks of filming for reasons I don't know. Maybe they just weren't confident in the project. Maybe there wasn't enough famous stars in it for them to really be confident in what it was going to produce. But in my opinion, this film doesn't need any of that. It doesn't need a huge cast. It doesn't even necessarily need to be action-packed. At the very minimum, at the very best, it has to be a decent, beautiful story. And I think Dev Patel writes an incredible story with Monkey Man. From the opening scene as a child, his mother is telling him about the legend of their culture. He pulls a lot of references from his own life and from his culture and politics within that. Some people are going to be a little bit disappointed because reviews were really hyping this film up to be action-packed, calling it the future of action cinema. And I believe that this is setting the tone and the bar for where it is that we need to go forward with telling good stories in an incredible action cinematic way. A lot of people were comparing this to John Wick, and there is even a John Wick reference inside the film, which feels a little meta and unnecessary to me. I ultimately wish that they just completely ignored whatever comparisons that they were going to be made by the end of the film, but they take references from so many other action films from all across the globe. This film is an homage to all of those epic films that came before it. In its most simplistic form, it's a hero's journey, much reminiscent of The Green Knight. That is a film starring Dev Patel. I believe he was a producer in that, but that wasn't his directorial debut. That wasn't his brainchild. That was just a performance that he really dived into. Although I didn't love The Green Knight, I actually do believe in many ways it is a masterpiece. Visually, it is so stylish, and the story is really rich. And I think Dev Patel learned a lot from Green Knight and applied that to this film, Monkey Man. If you're going in expecting this movie to be all nonstop action, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. I don't really think that's the service of the film. The cinematography in this film is interesting. At times there are gimbals, at times it is going handheld. There's a lot of Dutch angles going on. There are a few moments throughout the film that are shot on an iPhone, and it is kind of noticeable. And this isn't even necessarily a critique or even a nitpick. I actually don't mind that in the context and the pacing of the film and the story and how grungy it is. I really don't mind when the pixels kind of get low and grainy. It feels like you're kind of blending together different aspects of filmmaking styles. And so it doesn't feel like you have to necessarily hold on to one technique and shoot the entire film in that style. And that's something that a lot of directors do. But I think in the case of Dev Patel, this is a low budget action film. This is an indie film. He didn't have a lot to work with in the beginning. There was cameras breaking, gimbals breaking. A lot of their equipment started to fail on them. And these are issues that I myself have on the set of my projects whenever, a battery dies, or, we're having camera technical difficulties that even I don't fully understand. There's always going to be a situation that arises on set, and sometimes you're going to be a little unprepared for that. And it's up to you if the show goes on. And honestly, I am so proud of Dave for not quitting. I'm sure there was so many times throughout the process of this film that he just kind of wanted to be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I've given it all I have. It's impossible to make. It's hard to rearrange everything and get everything in place. But when there's a will, there's a way, and he goes for it. I did hear people walking out the theater thinking the editing was a little bit choppy and the action action was a little choppy and you can't really see the punches and this and that. And look, I don't know really what you're expecting out of this film. This is the first of its own. It's unique in its entirely own nature. As a filmmaker myself who fully understands the level of dedication and hard work that goes into making an epic project, I give him so much respect for this film. The soundtrack is amazing. I love the cover songs that they specifically chose to use, especially Roxanne. It's so dark and eerie and it plays really well in the scene that it's conveying. By the time you get to the final act, the last 30 minutes, it is at its highest point, the peak of the movie. Everything has been building up to this one moment and it completely satisfies the audience. I saw this movie on the biggest screen possible with a huge crowd, and everybody, I mean everybody, was gasping, cheering, loving this movie. And by the end, when it said directed by Dev Patel, I heard a few people in the audiences actually clap, and I was one of them. I praise this movie. I think the future for Dev Patel is bright. I would love to see him direct other movies outside of this genre. I doubt that he would want to just continue to do action films. You could do horror, you could do a period piece, he could make a documentary. Anything that this guy wants to produce, even if it's an Apple TV series or on Netflix or Hulu, whatever he wants to do next, greenlight it. I think studios are going to regret not jumping at the chance to work with him from the beginning of this film's conception. I think this is a movie once in a lifetime that if you don't see it in theaters, you will regret missing that hype, knowing what it was that the crowd was feeling when they first saw this movie. The pacing of the movie itself is kind of intricate and interesting in itself. There's times where they're bouncing back and forth between the present and the past, and as the story is unfolding, you are revealed more and more information as the main character is kind of lying to you, the audience, saying, oh, this actually came from this came from that. When you go inside these flashbacks, the truth is actually revealed at what happened to him at a young age, between him, his mother, the police, the city, the corruption in the entire city that he has been dealing with. I thought the set pieces were beyond fascinating. I thought it took a lot of detail to get everything in its place. That on top of the lighting, the backlighting, and the color grading, this movie truly is a masterpiece. When I walked out the theater, my mind was completely shattered. I wasn't expecting this to be as epic as it was. Now, I read all of the reviews when they first dropped. I've been following this movie since the beginning. It is my most anticipated movie of the year because of the potential that it had. And it lived up to all of that. The story, the cinematography, the color grading, the acting, the performances, the set pieces, everything that they laid out for me was completely satisfying, and I am grateful and proud of the work that Dev Patel had done on this film, and I cannot wait to see what he does going forward. This is a master class, and I think any film student would benefit from watching this top to bottom, frame by frame. You study the audio, you study the editing, the pacing of it, the writing. This in itself can teach you so much about filmmaking and help you get started on your own career. This movie was very honorable and respectful and even relevant in its references to its own culture and its society. I think it represented all of that material in the best way possible. Some people are confused that it does say from executive producer Jordan Peele. He didn't have anything to do with the making of this film. He saw it in its completion at the end of it and helped invest and get it to where it is at today for a wide audience to witness and experience on the biggest screen possible, and you don't want to miss this. Very curious, what are your thoughts on Monkey Man? Do you have plans on checking it out this weekend? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more reviews. As always, I have been your host, Isaac Joel, right here at The Critics. I'll catch you next time.